Hey guys, it's Sarah. Welcome back to my channel and today's tutorial is all about how I made my daughter's birthday cake for her Frozen 2 themed birthday party. So, little disclaimer, her birthday did happen way back in June. I filmed this video and then we jumped into the depths of moving, and then fall came and I had to get all those tutorials out, and so this just got put on hold. But it's here now. Little disclaimer, this video is not about actually baking the cake, it's really about decorating the cake. I am not a professional baker by any stretch of the imagination, so I did use box cakes and box frosting, or can frosting, and then I'm just going to show you how I made the decorative elements from scratch. So I did make the edible rocks, the edible leaves, the edible fire, and the edible water. And if I do say so myself, all of it tasted really good. So if you're curious about how I made this really beautiful Frozen 2 inspired birthday cake, then just keep watching. So we're going to start by making some edible rocks. And how I'm going to do this is with these white chocolate candy melts. I'm just kind of filling the bowl with a good bit of them, and then I'm going to go ahead and pop this in the microwave and melt these. And after about 30 seconds they will soften up, and then I just take a spoon and kind of stir them around. If they still seem too hard, you can always put them in for an additional 10 seconds and just kind of keep repeating that until you've got them nice and melted. Once the chocolate is totally melted, then you're going to go ahead and add in some crushed up Oreos. So I did not have a blender, so I'd literally put my Oreos in a bag, and then I took a meat mallet and smashed them. Be careful doing that, make sure that your bag doesn't explode. And then I have this black food coloring, and I just added a couple of drops. You don't want to do too much because you don't want it to turn out black, you want it to be kind of gray. And then I am just going to stir this with my spoon until I've got it to a nice kind of gray consistency. You don't want it perfectly stirred, I would definitely say leave some of the coloration in it. And then you're going to set this off to the side to almost dry, so you still want it to be moldable but not liquid. And then once you've got it to kind of like a mushy consistency, you're going to take some parchment paper or wax paper, not parchment paper, wax paper, and roll it into your little stone shapes. Now I will tell you guys, I did make this in like 3 different batches because I wanted different tones of gray. So like this first batch, I made it with, you saw like a little handful of the Oreos and some 3 drops of the black food coloring, and then on the next batch I added some, a little bit of extra Oreos and did 1 more drop of food coloring just so that the stones wouldn't all be an identical color. But this part's definitely the easiest part. You just literally roll them into stones, and they do not need to be perfect. In fact, they look better when they're not perfect. To make the little edible leaves, I'll be using these candy melts. I got orange, purple, and red. I will be melting these the same way that I melted the white chocolate ones for the rocks. And this is kind of what they come out looking like. Guys, they do come out super cute. But basically you're just going to add a handful of the candy melts into the bowl. Now the red, I didn't want to come out like too true red, I guess, so I do end up mixing the red and the orange. I'll be honest, I don't think it actually made a difference, but I attempted it. And then I did the same thing, put it in for 30 seconds, stirred it, and then added 10 seconds as needed. In order to actually make the leaves, you are going to need a little pastry bag like this. You can get these at Walmart. I've actually seen them at Dollar Tree too, but you're just going to scoop in the melted chocolate. Fair warning with this step, you do need to work not super fast, just pretty quickly. Don't get distracted, don't start working on something else because the chocolate will dry, and it is not the easiest thing to reheat. So once you've got it in your pastry bag, you're going to make sure that you've got it pretty shoved down to the bottom, and then you're going to snip off the end of your pastry bag with scissors. Don't snip off too much, you do actually want to leave the hole pretty small because it makes it easier to fill this little silicone mold that we're going to be using. I will have this mold linked for you guys in the description box below. It does come in a 2-pack or a 3-pack, I can't remember. But these were the only size leaves that worked for my cake because they were the smallest ones. So I got these off Amazon. That's the easiest place I've ever seen them. I have seen different ones at Hobby Lobby, but I definitely prefer the silicone ones. They're so much easier to work with and to get the chocolate out of. And then I'm using this little frosting scrape tool just to smooth out the backs. I'll be honest with you guys, this is not really necessary. I think I stopped doing it around the 3rd set that I was making of these, just because you're going to end up squishing them down into the cake frosting anyway, so they really don't need to be perfectly flat.
And then you're going to want to let these dry. You can leave them out, but I actually popped mine in the fridge for about 20 minutes. And then this is kind of what it looks like when you pull it out of the fridge, and you're just literally going to peel the mold back a little bit and the chocolates pop right out. This is so easy. It's not hard, I promise, guys. Like, you don't have to fight the mold at all. I'm literally doing this one-handed while holding the camera. So all that's left now is to repeat this step with the orange and the purple, which I'm not going to show you guys because it's the exact same step. Just make sure you make enough to cover your cake. For the frosting, I am using store-bought frosting because I'll be honest, I don't like homemade frosting. I made homemade frosting for Dalen's cake and I did not enjoy it. So I'm going back to store-bought, and I'm just going to scoop this entire can of frosting out and add my purple food coloring to it. I did want it to be a really light purple to be a little bit more Elsa-like, so I only added 2 drops of blue and then I believe, let's see, 2 drops of red. You can always build up the color, so I would definitely suggest starting small and then just adding what you need to add. This food coloring just came from Walmart, but they do sell actual like pre-made purples if you go into a craft or a baking store. So now we're on to my biggest challenge of the day, which was making the water, which is like sugar candy. I've never done this before. So you're going to need half a cup of water, a cup and a half of granulated sugar, and then a half cup of corn syrup. I will have bloopers at the end of what went wrong with this, along with images of what I was attempting to do originally. So make sure you watch through the whole video so that you get to see that gloriousness that we accidentally caught on camera. But you're going to add all of these things to a pot, stir it around, and you're going to want to bring this to a boil. You do need a candy thermometer for this. Just so you guys know, I would not attempt this without a candy thermometer because you do have to reach a certain temperature, which is 300 degrees Fahrenheit. So go ahead and stick in your candy thermometer, and once you reach that point, you will see it boiling like this. Then you're going to add in your food coloring. So I added in a few drops of blue food coloring to make it kind of look more like ice and water. I think I did about 8 drops, and then I also added in a little bit of originally pink because I wanted it to be like layered with colors. That did not work out for me, so just do the blue. Remove your thermometer, and then you're going to give it a good stir, swirl around those colors, make sure you mix it. See, it looks really cool right here. It did not stay that way, I promise, guys. Just do blue. And then you're going to let it cool just a little bit to where it's not bubbling anymore, and you're going to pour it out onto some wax paper laid out on a cooking sheet. So make sure that you do have that cooking sheet underneath because obviously you don't want this getting stuck to your countertop or anything like that. I just took a metal spoon and was just doing this kind of in random patterns, trying to make cool designs. I definitely would think about it ahead of time so that you kind of know what you want them to look like. This was again a deviation from my original plan, which again, stay tuned to the end and I'll show you guys. But basically this is the part where you do have to work very quickly because the candy does dry quite fast. So I would say have a plan going into it, and also just be prepared for this part to maybe take a little longer. Some alternatives to making your own candy would to be not Saria and just go buy some candy that looks like this from a candy shop, or the little rock candies with the stick on the end would probably do the job as well. But that's not how I do, guys. That's not how I do. So moving on to the next interesting segment of this is that I used wax paper, but mine did get stuck. So I don't know if I put the paper the wrong way or what exactly happened. But I did peel it off. A lot of them broke, and then I just rinsed them off with water and then went straight into putting them into the cake. Moving on to the fire that I forgot about, now I'm going to be doing purple, red, and pink candy melts in order to make kind of a pink color like Bruni's fire is. So I made a couple different types of flames using a couple different tools. So I started out just by using my cake frosting knife, and I swiped it into the pink frosting and just kind of swiped it onto some wax paper. And then I decided to melt some purple chocolate melts and then some red chocolate melts and try to create kind of like an ombre just by wiping them all together, if that makes sense. So after waiting, I would say about a minute, letting the purple dry a little bit, then I added letting the pink dry a little bit, then I added the purple on top, and next I will be going in with the red just to create layers. Again, just being totally transparent with you guys, this was a total experiment for me. I'm not a baker. I make 2 fancy cakes a year for my daughter's birthdays, and that's about it. So this was a lot of trial and error and just experimenting and seeing what I liked best. So again, just have kind of patience going into this and try what you think will work. If I could go back, honestly, what I would probably do is buy another silicone mold of fire, but because I forgot about the fire until the day before the party, I had to make it work. So my next attempt and most messy attempt was to use this little squeezy bottle, and it is designed for this purpose, but it is very difficult to clean. So I melted the chocolate and then I scooped it into this bottle. Again, this chocolate does melt quickly, so you do have to work pretty fast. And I tried to use this to have a little bit more control of the shape and actually like draw flames. Problem is I can't draw flames. So it kind of looked more like a footprint, which I tried to tell myself was okay because Bruni like leaves little footprints in the snow that look like fire. Sure. So yeah, I'm just kind of practicing and trying things out with this. I actually had my husband attempt it as well, and then basically after all of them were dry, I just kind of looked at which ones I liked best and put those on the cake. The most important thing that I found though is just to layer the colors, because it didn't really look right using just one color to make this. So the final attempt, and the one that I ended up using the most of, was just to make really tiny flames that just kind of came to one point instead of trying to add like this big massive fire. And then after allowing them to dry, I just picked them up and kind of chipped some of them off and tried to make shapes that I thought would work. I'm sorry guys, I lost the footage of me first placing the first stones on, but literally just frost your cake. I did mine this lilac purple, and then I let it sit in the fridge for about 30 minutes, and then I just went ahead and started placing the stones. There is no science to this, just place them where you like them. Now the way I have my cake planned is that one side is stones, one side is fire. Another side is kind of the leaves going up, and then the ice is going to come, or the water, I'm sorry, the water is going to come out the top of the cake. So the next side I did was the leaves, and this is mostly because, full disclosure, I completely forgot about doing the fire, and so that ended up being a really last minute addition, but the leaves were done and they came out beautiful, so I just kind of placed these in a pattern to make it look like a gale was kind of blowing across the cake. So next I added the water, and I basically just took them and stuck them into the cake. I did try to take my time just to make sure that they were in places that I liked them, because it's kind of like once you stick it in, there is going to be a hole there. So do take your time on this part. I just tried to pick off the pieces that I thought looked really cool and looked the most like water was kind of randomly splashing up out of the cake. And now to add the last element, which is the fire. Now this part, guys, it's fine. I made it work, but I pulled the leaves off because I could have just put the fire on the back, which I'll be honest, I kind of wish I had done, because the fire was definitely my least favorite thing of all the elements that I made. But I also wanted people to be able to see it. So I did peel off a leaf, and then I'm going to take the fire and put it on that front corner between the leaves and the rocks. And I'm doing this the same way that I did with the rocks. I'm just firmly pressing it into the frosting. The final step to this is that I did add a Funko on top. This is one of my favorite ways to do a cake topper, and my daughter specifically requested the Elsa in a white dress Funko, and I had to oblige and add to my Funko collection. Just kidding, it's actually displayed in her room. But I'm going to give you guys some close-ups of the cake. I do hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I, again, am not a master baker or anything like that, but I do enjoy decorating cakes and making them for my girls just to make their day a little bit more special. If you guys have any questions for me, of course leave them in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe to my channel and give this video a like, maybe share it with your friends and family, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye! So now it's time for what went wrong on this episode of Dream It DIY. I filled this balloon with water and put it inside of a cup to prop it up because my plan was to pour the sugar candy on top like the tutorial that I watched and create kind of like a bowl for Elsa to stand in.
Okay.
Now for take number 2, I learned my lesson and I let the candy cool. However, it cooled too much, and also I believe that I overheated it because all of the colors turned this lovely shade of brown. Now, after breaking the candy and allowing it to dry on the balloon, you're going to see what happens next. And this is where I came up with a new plan. Watch my dreams explode with this balloon. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next one.